Okay, good evening everybody and welcome back to another little video. It is day 2 of Inktober and not gonna lie, I'm a little bit more enthusiastic about today's prompt than yesterday's one. It's definitely a lot more up my street. So let me turn over a new page in my sketchbook. Let's get on with today's video. Okay, so today's prompt word from the official Inktober prompt list is Scurry, which instantly in my head makes me think of like cute little fluffy things like mice and chipmunks and different rodents. So I think I'm probably going to start by doodling some of these little creatures, have a think about what else I might want to do, and I'll gradually hopefully fill up a couple of spreads in my sketchbook. So I began how I usually tend to do when approaching any type of illustration, and that was by studying a few references of mice in different positions, just so I could get a bit more information about the anatomy and features of a mouse, and to basically give me an opportunity to warm up and to practice some skills. So after roughly sketching out 3 mice, I decided I wanted to really use this page to hone in on some of my mark making techniques, as I don't think I really achieved that very well in the last illustration I'd done for this Inktober series. So I grabbed a range of different fine line pens and started layering out different marks, trying to really pay attention to where the light was hitting the mouse and also any changes in the fur direction. I also used my big chunky black Posca pen to add some dark areas and used it to make the mouse look like it was on the ground rather than just floating in midair. I actually found the pen that I gravitated to the most whilst doing the study was just a basic black biro pen, as I found it allowed me to create lots of light and tone in the study by simply increasing or decreasing the pressure that I applied to the pen. Now the next study didn't go quite as well as the first one, but I didn't mind that too much, as that's the idea of a sketchbook page, to have somewhere to practice and to make mistakes. I basically went in far too dark to begin with and then couldn't really get the differences in tone that I wanted. Also, I don't know why, but this mouse's hands really freaked me out and gave me the heebie-jeebies a little bit. I think it's mainly because they reminded me of Stuart Little hands, which always used to freak me out a little bit when I was younger. I think it's because they are slightly human-like, so sorry Mr. Mouse for making you look so freaky and not very cute. I then tried to redeem myself on the third little mouse and was actually fairly pleased with how this one came out, but at this point I was getting a bit bored of just using ink and I wanted to start doing something else. What I'm going to do now is I'm actually want to go down a bit more of like a little character designy cartoony route. This is the old sketchbook that I used for, it must have been Inktober 2019, and I think there is a page in it, there it is, where there's like a load of little random cartoon mice. Yeah, I really like this page, and I really want to kind of sit and just kind of develop some of these characters, or maybe develop them but make them a bit more like autumny, so perhaps like turn them into witches. Kind of want to play around with my watercolour paints and my dip pens and my inks and get a bit of colour into the spread, and yeah, just have a bit of a doodle and a bit of a character designing session. So I grabbed a HB sketching pencil and started to design some mice and rat characters, placing the rat characters on one side of the spread and the mice characters on the other side of the spread. The main reason being that I thought the rat characters could be the more villainous characters and the mice characters could be like the more innocent or kind characters. So once I sketched the characters out, I then drew over the top of them using a black fine line pen, gradually altering the shape of some of them and adding a few little details that I thought would give the characters a bit more personality and a story behind them. I was particularly happy that I'd done this for the first rat, or Count Ratula as I call him, as he had originally looked a little bit more like a badger than a rat, but I sort of changed the shape of his face and his neck a little bit more, and I ended up being really happy with the result. I then added a little splash of colour to the page by using an orange Crayola felt tip pen and a pink highlighter pen and a pink biro pen, for no other reason than to make me happy and to make the page look a little bit more prettier. I then decided to work on my final composition. Now I would usually thumbnail an idea for a final composition, but I was feeling fairly confident and happy with these characters, and I thought for once I'd just let the idea develop naturally and without planning too much ahead, just to see what my tiny little artist brain would design on the spot. So I basically picked my 3 favourite character designs and sketched them out on a big piece of watercolour paper and then filled up the rest of the composition with a few little details such as pumpkins and a tiny scurry and rat to help tell the story that I was formulating in my head. The only problem with developing the illustration this way was I had to do a lot of rubbing out and changing my mind, which I was a bit worried would damage the paper, but overall I think the composition looked good and I do feel like it would make a really nice colouring page, so let me know in the comments below if you'd be interested in a colouring page of this illustration. Okay, so quick little update. I've managed to put my little characters all into like a little scene, which I think is quite cute. So in my head, these two are two little miscreant rats who they're a bit like the villains in Scooby-Doo, where they keep on trying to do naughty, cheeky, dastardly like deeds, but they keep getting foiled. So they're a little bit like goofy and a bit useless as villains. They keep on coming up with these weird little scams and things like that to try and get things. And then what this little mouse here, this is like the good mouse who is like the protector of the forest, and she's trying to protect all of like the pumpkins and the berries and all like the stuff that grows in the forest. That is kind of what I was thinking of when I was putting it together as like a little final scene. But yeah, I really like it. It's quite a cute little thing. I can imagine it fitting quite well into a little children's book page. So what I'm going to do now is get out my inks and my watercolour paints, and yeah, let's just get this little piece finished off. So once again, I grabbed my watercolour paint set and then proceeded to work into the painting. I decided to work in little sections on this piece, so I lightly rubbed out areas of the painting before working into it so that I wouldn't get too much graphite mixed into the paint. So I started with the little pumpkin in the middle of the painting and then moved on to the two rats. I wanted to give each character a little bit of their own colour scheme, so for the first rat I decided to go with quite an earthy, dirty, swampy colour scheme. So I picked a swampy green colour for his trousers and a browny grey colour scheme for his fur. And then on Count Ratula, I went down a bit more of a purpley, bluey, grey, maroony colour scheme, just to give him a little bit of a realness about him. Oh, I've just realised I actually haven't named the first rat character, so maybe you could name him for me in the comment section below. Anyway, I then started working on the little toadstool and the surrounding pumpkins. Not gonna lie, I really loved painting the colours in the toadstool, and I loved watching like the pink mixed with the red, and I felt that it worked really well adding some orange into the red as well, as it gave the toadstool a little bit of warmth. So whilst I was painting the surrounding scenery around the toadstool, I started trying to use some of the colours that I'd used in the rat characters just to balance out the composition a little bit more and to start pulling it all together. I then moved on to painting my little mousy character who I called Willow, and for this character's colour scheme I decided to go down a bit of a pinky brown route to make her seem a little bit warmer and basically look like a kinder character. At this point I did have a little bit of a debate with myself as to whether to add a background colour, which would have probably made sense because of the fact that Count Ratula was holding a candle, so theoretically this illustration would be set at night time or dusk or something. But I couldn't really make up my mind, so I basically decided to proceed with inking the drawing and basically hoped the answer would come to me as I worked more into the illustration. Not gonna lie, the answer still hasn't really come to me now, and I'm still debating whether the illustration would look better with a background or not. So anyway, I continued to ink the illustration, trying this time to not overwork the details too much and to let the watercolour paint shine through underneath. It was a little bit of a difficult balance to get right, as I felt that some areas needed more inking than others. I was definitely pleased with some of the shading around the pumpkins, but I was a little bit disappointed with the inking on Count Ratula's face, as I feel like I lost a little bit of definition and it became a little bit hard to distinguish the rat from the cape. I then went in with my white acrylic paint to add some details to the dandelion wand and to try and mend some issues with the rats' faces. And then I added a bit more colour to the piece by using my Derwent Inktense water soluble pencils. So yeah, overall I think I'm fairly happy with this little illustration. There are a few areas that I'd probably change, like the shape of the pumpkin in the middle of the piece and the inking on the rat's face. But overall I think it's a cute little illustration with a lot of character. So yeah, let me know what you think about the illustration in the comment section below. So whether you like it or not, if you think I should add a background to it, and also what the name of the swampy green rat is. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you again soon with another arty crafty video. Bye!